A story of courage, discovery, and transformation. Sophia had always been different from the other girls at school. At 16, she didn't care about expensive brands or the latest fashion trends. The daughter of Mrs. Amelia, a seamstress who worked day and night to support the family after her husband's death, Sophia learned early on the value of money and the importance of every single penny. That Tuesday morning, as she walked to school in her worn-out sneakers, the same pair she had been wearing for 2 years, Sophia had no idea her life was about to change completely. The soles already had holes that let water in on rainy days, and the fabric was so faded it was nearly impossible to tell its original color. On her way home, Sophia always passed by Mrs. Eulalia's little thrift shop, a cramped corner store run by a 70-year-old woman who sold second-hand clothes and shoes. The shop window always caught Sophia's attention, but she never had the courage to go inside. After all, what would her classmates say if they saw her buying used clothes? But that day, something different happened. In the window sat a pair of shiny black patent leather shoes, glistening under the afternoon sun. They were elegant, looked almost new, and the price tag read only 15 reais, a bargain compared to similar shoes downtown that cost over 100. Sophia stood in front of the display for several minutes, staring at the shoes. They were exactly her size and had a timeless style that would go with anything in her modest wardrobe. After hesitating for a long while, she finally gathered the courage to push open the door. Mrs. Eulalia welcomed her with a warm smile. The shop had a familiar smelling mix of mothballs and old perfume, and the packed shelves of clothes and accessories seemed to whisper stories of lives once lived. "Can I help you, dear?" the old woman asked, adjusting her glasses at the tip of her nose. "I'd like to see those black shoes in the window," Sophia said, trying to hide the nervous tremor in her voice. Mrs. Eulalia brought the shoes, and Sophia tried them on. They fit perfectly, as though they had been made just for her. The leather was soft, the finish flawless. It was hard to believe they cost only 15 reais. "They're beautiful, aren't they?" said Mrs. Eulalia. They belonged to a very elegant teacher who used to live downtown. She took great care of her things. Sophia looked at her savings, exactly 15 reais she had earned doing odd jobs for neighbors. It was all she had, but she decided it was worth it. She paid and walked out of the shop with a strange mix of joy and apprehension. The next morning, Sophia woke earlier than usual. She showered, carefully brushed her hair, and put on her best outfit, a navy blue skirt and a white blouse her mother had sewn. Finally, she slipped into her new black shoes. When she looked in the mirror, Sophia barely recognized herself. The shoes completely transformed her appearance, giving her an elegance she had never experienced before. She felt more confident, more mature, but her joy didn't last long. As soon as she arrived at school, the cruel comments began. Well, Sophia's all fancy today." Bruna, one of the most popular girls, sneered sarcastically. "Where'd you get those shoes?" "At Mrs. Eulalia's thrift shop?" Julia asked, laughing loudly. "EW, imagine wearing dead people's shoes." Another girl added, sparking a wave of laughter across the classroom. All day long, Sophia was the target of cruel jokes. Her classmates whispered as she walked through the halls, pointed discreetly at her feet, and mocked her family's financial struggles. "Poor thing, can't even afford new shoes," Sophia overheard from the popular girls group. "Bet those shoes have been walking around for years," said another classmate. Each word felt like a dagger to her heart. More than once, Sophia considered taking off the shoes and going back to her old sneakers. But something inside her stopped her. Maybe it was pride. Maybe it was a strange sense that those shoes were special. That afternoon, she arrived home in tears. Her mother, noticing her state, sat beside her on the bed. "What happened, my daughter?" Sophia told her everything about the shoes, the teasing, the humiliation. Mrs. Amelia listened silently, then held her daughter's hands. "Sophia, do you know the difference between someone with character and someone superficial? A person of character sees beyond appearances. They understand that a person's true worth isn't in what they wear, but in who they are inside." The next morning, still shaken by the previous day, Sophia decided to give the shoes one more chance. As she slipped them on, she noticed something strange. Inside the right shoe, there was a small bump, as if something were hidden between the lining and the sole. Curious, Sophia examined it closely. With care, she managed to lift a loose piece of the lining. To her astonishment, there was a tiny secret pocket, and inside it, an old yellowed envelope. Hands trembling, Sophia opened it. Inside was a handwritten letter in elegant penmanship, along with a document that made her heart race. The letter read, "To whoever finds this message, my name is Helena Mendonça, and if you are reading this, it means my shoes have found a new owner. These shoes accompanied me through the most important moments of my life, my graduation, my first day as a teacher, my wedding. They carry not only my memories, but also my hope that they will bring luck and success to whoever wears them with dignity. Along with this letter, I leave a small gift for the person brave enough to give these shoes a new life. Use it wisely and never be ashamed of who you are." The document was a stock certificate from an old telecommunications company. Sophia didn't know much about it, but it looked official and important. When she showed her mother, Mrs. Amelia was just as surprised. She suggested they consult a lawyer or accountant to see if it was worth anything. The following Saturday, mother and daughter visited Dr. Roberto, a family friend who had helped them with legal matters after her father's passing. He examined the document carefully. "This is very interesting," he said, adjusting his glasses. "This certificate is for shares in Telebras, a company privatized back in the 90s. Many people lost track of their shares during that process." He explained it would take some research to see if the shares still had value, and the process might take weeks. In the meantime, Sophia continued wearing her shoes, but now with a different feeling. Each time her classmates mocked her, she remembered Helena's letter and felt stronger. "These shoes have a story," she thought. "They belong to a brave, successful woman. If she achieved her dreams in these shoes, then so can I." Little by little, Sophia stopped letting the teasing affect her. She began walking with more confidence, speaking with more assurance, and participating actively in class. Her teachers noticed a change. Mrs. Isabel, her literature teacher, saw how engaged Sophia had become and encouraged her. "Sophia, I'd like you to present our next project on Machado de Assis," she said after class. It was the first time Sophia had ever been chosen for something important. She accepted eagerly. She poured herself into the project, researching in the library, reading Machado's works, preparing carefully. On the presentation day, wearing her special shoes, she stood at the front of the class with confidence. Her talk was brilliant. Sophia spoke passionately about Machado's writing, drew clever parallels with contemporary society, and answered every question with ease. When she finished, the classroom erupted in applause. "Excellent work, Sophia," praised Mrs. Isabel. "You have a natural talent for literature." For the first time in a long while, Sophia felt recognized for her abilities, not judged for her poverty. The same classmates who once mocked her now looked at her with respect. 3 weeks later, Dr. Roberto called with shocking news. The shares found in the shoes, after all adjustments, were worth 45,000 reis. Mother and daughter couldn't believe it. It was enough to pay off debts, fix their home, and still set aside money for Sophia's education. "But this isn't ours," Sophia said, showing her integrity. "We need to find Professor Helena's heirs." Dr. Roberto commended her honesty and did some research. He discovered Helena had died childless, leaving only distant relatives who showed no interest in her belongings. Legally, Sophia had every right to keep the shares, especially since they had been intentionally left inside the shoes with an explanatory letter. With that money, their lives changed. Mrs. Amelia expanded her sewing workshop and hired 2 assistants. Sophia enrolled in a college prep course, dreaming of following Helena's path and becoming a teacher herself. But the greatest transformation wasn't financial, it was personal. Sophia had learned to value herself regardless of others' judgments. She continued buying clothes from thrift shops, but now out of choice, knowing that the true worth of an item wasn't its price, but in the story it carried. Word of Sophia's shoes spread through school. At first, some classmates were jealous of her luck, but soon they realized there was something deeper. Inspired, Mrs. Isabel created a project called Stories of Objects. Each student had to research the history of an old object at home and share it. The project was a huge success, bringing students closer to their families and their own roots. Even Bruna, the girl who had mocked Sophia the most, approached her weeks later. "You know, Sophia, I want to apologize for what I said about your shoes. I was being stupid. Honestly, I've always admired your courage to be yourself no matter what others think." Sophia accepted the apology gracefully, and the two became friends. She even taught Bruna and others how to find hidden treasures in thrift shops, showing them you could dress well without spending a fortune. 2 years later, as Sophia graduated high school, she was chosen to give the commencement speech. On that special day, she wore her favorite shoes, the same black pair from Mrs. Eulalia's shop. "Dear classmates and families," she began, 2 years ago, I bought a pair of used shoes for 15 reis. Many of you remember the jokes back then, but those shoes taught me the most important lesson of my life, the value of something or someone on the outside. But in its essence, these shoes carried the story of a courageous woman who believed in the power of education. They brought me not just financial fortune, but above all, the confidence to chase my dreams no matter the circumstances. Today, as I say goodbye to high school and prepare to enter college to study education, I want to follow in Helena Mendonça's footsteps. And one day, when I no longer need these shoes, I will leave them for another young girl to find her own strength. Sophia kept that promise. She graduated with honors in education, became a teacher, and dedicated her life to children in underserved communities. She always wore special shoes on the most important days of her career. 10 years later, as she packed to move into a larger home, she decided it was time to pass the legacy on. With the same care she once received, she wrote a new letter. "To whoever finds this message, these shoes walk with me through the most important moments of my life. They taught me that a person's value isn't in what they own, but in who they become. They first belonged to Professor Helena, then to me, Sophia, also a teacher. Now, I hope they find a new owner with the courage to dream big and fight for her goals." Along with this letter, I leave a small contribution for your studies. Use it wisely and never give up on your dreams, no matter who tries to belittle you. Inside, Sophia placed a check for 5,000 reais money she had saved just for this purpose and tucked it into the same spot where she had once found Helena's letter. That Saturday, Sophia brought the shoes back to Mrs. Eulalia's thrift shop, now run by the old woman's granddaughter. "I'd like to donate these shoes," Sophia said, handing over the carefully wrapped box. "They're very special, and I'm sure they'll find the right person." The young shopkeeper admired the fine quality. "They're beautiful. I'll put them in the front window." A week later, a 14-year-old girl named Laura stopped in front of the shop. Her sneakers were torn, and she had spent months saving money from odd jobs. The shiny black shoes in the window were exactly her size. Laura walked in, her heart racing. She had only 20 reais all she had managed to save, but the shoes cost 25. The shopkeeper noticed her disappointment and smiled kindly. "For you, they're 20, she said. Laura bought the shoes and left the store beaming with happiness. The next day, as she slipped them on for the first time, she felt something strange inside the right shoe. There was something hidden. And so, the story continued, passing from one courageous girl to another, carrying forward a chain of hope, dignity, and transformation. The shoes weren't magical. The magic lay in the courage of the girls who dared to ignore judgment and believe in themselves. Sophia's story teaches us that the greatest treasures are not always found in the most obvious or glamorous places. Sometimes they're hidden in a corner thrift shop, in a used object, in an opportunity others overlook. More importantly, it shows us that true wealth isn't in what we own, but in our ability to stand tall with courage in the face of adversity. Sophia could have given up on those shoes after the first day of ridicule, but she chose to persist. That persistence, more than the discovery of the stocks, was what truly changed her life. The deepest lesson of this story is that we all carry hidden treasures within us, dreams, potential that will only be revealed if we have the courage to be who we truly are, regardless of others' judgment. And you? What worn-out shoes are you willing to put on to discover the hidden treasure in your own journey?